So he boarded a train for Iping because he doesn't want to be live in the crowded city. He went to the village Iping and booked two rooms in the local inn. And the money of the loot did not last long, and he again had a rob to the Calgary man of his money. After some time, Mr. and Mrs. Hall visited his room. When they found the door of the room open, they found nobody inside, but the chair and the other things in the room became alive. The hat lying on the bedpost leapt up and dashed itself into the face of the landlady. Then the bedroom chair became alive, and it pushed the innkeeper and his wife out of the room. So what happened? First of all, he went to the Iping and to room he had booked there. His uncommon appearance attracted everybody's attention. Mrs. Hall and the landlord's wife made his very possible efforts to be friendly with him. Actually, when he went to the Iping, first of all, what happened? He went to Mrs. Hall's inn and he booked a room. He was just because he had put the bandage on his body. So Mrs. Hall asked him about why he was looking like that. He said that he had some accident. Because of that, he was just tying the bandage. So Mrs. Hall said it is okay. Then next day, what happened? He said to the Mrs. Hall that some luggages are coming to the by train. So next day, one of the uh, uh, person come with his luggage, and he have a dog. So he was just a dog was barking to him, and he hold his leg, but good you can say his destiny is with him. So he wore the pant, so he was not feeling any type of problem with that. So what happened next day? Mrs. Hall and his husband went to the room. Whose room? To the Griffin's room in his own hotel. So Mrs. Hall and the landlord wife made her very possible efforts him friendly, but he told her frankly that he became to work for solitude and did not want to be disturbed. She was satisfied. She thought that it was an scientist. Just moreover, he had paid the rent in advance. When this his stolen money was spent, he admitted that he had no ready cash. He said that he was expecting a check and then he would make the payment. Thus, he has satisfied the landlord of that inn. Then he had again he wants money, but he don't have any source. So what he had done, Griffin took his cloth and become invisible. He entered to the Calgary man's home with an intention to steal money from there. The Calgary man and his wife woke up when they heard noise of the study room. The Calgary man entered the room with the pore of his hand. To his surprise, the room appeared to be empty. This he and his wife searched everywhere, but there was no trace of any thefting or any thief. Yet the desk had been opened and the money had been stolen. So then what happened? That his wife, Mrs. Hall, almost fell down to the stairs in the hysteric. She thought that it was a matter of witchcraft. She was convinced that the room was haunted by a spirit and a stranger had somehow caused these to enter into her furniture. By the time the news of the robbery spread and everyone suspected the scientist, the suspicion grew stronger when he produced ready cash, whereas he expected from the time before he had a money. The village constable was sent for. Instead of waiting for the constable, Mrs. Hall went to the scientist and asked how he had come out in the empty room and how he entered the locked room. The eccentric scientist lost his temper, and when he faced questions from Mrs. Hall, he threw off the bandages, specs, and false nose. He made his head invisible. So what happened? He had stolen the money. Next morning, he went to Mrs. Hall and he paid for the room rent. So he was expecting for the check for the next week, he got the money. And in the village, because it was a small village, most people are known to each other. So they were in the morning. All villagers know about the incident of the night that Mr. and Mrs. Caligari's house has just robbed by someone. They were surprised to find the scientist's door wide open because it was usually shut and locked and did not allow anybody to enter in the room. When they entered the room, they found the scientist missing. The cloth and the bandage that he always wore were lying on the room. In the meantime, the invisible scientist entered the room. He attacked Mrs. Halls with the bedroom chair. She and her husband left the room in terror. Mrs. Hall was convinced that the room was haunted by any spirit, and she held the strange scientist responsible for that. The neighbor felt that the trouble was caused by the witchcraft. When they come to know of the burglary in the calligraphy man home, they suspected the strange scientist. Their suspicions was strengthened when he suddenly produced in ready cash because only a day before he had admitted that he had no money, but now he had